Thanks for joining us on Shannons Club TV. If you're a Shannons Club member or passionate motoring enthusiast, you may be familiar with the road and race histories by Mark Oastler and myself on the Shannons Club website.
Now here on Shannons Club TV, we bring those histories to life with rare archival footage and photographs, and we meet a proud owner of our feature car.
We'll also get the latest market trends and tips on what to look out for with the Shannons auction team.
Today on the show, we look at a car which, for strategic reasons, had to appear in every Ford showroom around Australia. The first Ford Mustang.
The Australian Mustang program marked the biggest change in local Ford history. From 1962, Ford Australia representatives were moved across the border from Canada to the US after British Commonwealth supply requirements were relaxed. They were soon exposed to mercurial Ford executive Lee Iacocca. His enthusiasm for his new baby, still under development, was infectious. He soon convinced the new arrivals from Australia that his new Mustang was what they needed as a hero car for the Falcon. Australians were amongst the first to be shown the Mustang in April 1964, the same time it was launched in the US. A local tester was the first outside Ford to assess a Mustang on Australian soil. A left-hand drive example with a 170 Pursuit 6 and 3-speed floor shift manual. After raving about the new model, he concluded that Mustang means to Falcon what the Carman gear does to Beetle and Caravelle to the Renault R8. The exact premise that Lee Iacocca was selling. Mark, it seems amazing that the original plan was to sell a Mustang in Australia solely as a small six so it would make the ageing local Falcon look good. Now, how successful do you think that would have been?
Oh, well, as a hero car exercise, it would have failed. I mean, with the 6-cylinder engine, it wouldn't have been probably about the same speed as the local Falcon. But keep in mind too that when those V8 Mustangs hit the racetrack in '65, someone coming into the showroom later saying, "Can I have one of those?" And the Ford dealer saying, "Well, sorry, no, we've only got 6-cylinder versions." So it just wouldn't have worked.
Just another American car that you couldn't buy.
Exactly.
By the end of 1964, the local landscape had changed completely. Ford was building Australia's first ever two-door pillarless coupe version of an Australian car, the XM Falcon hardtop. A dynamic American, Bill Burke, was now in charge of marketing, and he had big plans for Ford's new small V8 in local Falcons. He was not interested in selling the Mustang, he had something else in mind. The Falcon hardtops had already shown that Australians would drive out with a sedan as soon as they had to open their wallets. Burke was far more interested in selling Australians the idea that the entire Falcon passenger car range would soon deliver all the Mustang they needed. But first, he had to get a US Mustang in every Ford showroom around Australia so that everyone would be talking Mustang. Ford would then release a new Falcon in 1966 that not only looked like a Mustang, but shared its 6-cylinder and V8 engines. It was a great idea, but it almost came undone. Burke was assured by his American colleagues that the Mustang was symmetrical, and converting it to right-hand drive was a simple matter of swapping over parts. It was only after the first left-hand drive 1965 Mustang shipment had clogged Ford's Sydney plant, it was discovered this was impossible. With a shipment of 1966 models on their way, hapless workers had to use whatever they could to meet Burke's tight time frame. Yet the crudely converted Mustangs were eagerly snapped up as the factory offer of a sporty new American car was unprecedented. Burke then shut down local Mustang imports, promoted Ford's new Falcon range as Mustang bred, and developed local Falcon Hero models far more sought after than any Mustang. Mark, as the Mustang quickly became a favourite for Australia's best racing drivers, what happened on the racetrack couldn't have been better timed to support Ford's local strategy, even after the Mustang left Aussie showrooms.
Yeah, and it continued to be a winner for many years to come.
Coming up, don't miss a special opportunity to share the passion with Colin Felso and his rare Australian delivered Mustang. We'll also get the latest auction news with Hammer Time.
As Joe explained, Bill Burke started importing small numbers of the new Ford Mustang in 1965 because he wanted Australia to get a taste of the Mustang mania that was sweeping across the US in the countdown to the launch of his pivotal XR Falcon range in 1966. What Burke probably hadn't counted on though was the massive free kick his marketing campaign received from three of Australia's biggest names in motorsport, Norm Beechey, Pete Gagan and Bob Jane, when all three chose to race V8 Mustangs in 1965. Beechey was the first driver to race a Mustang in Australia when he debuted the American pony car at Melbourne's Calder Park in January 1965. Armed with a full house 289 cubic inch V8 race engine from Carroll Shelby, Beechey's dazzling win and new lap record prompted Gagan and Jane to quickly follow suit, starting a golden muscle car era in Australian motorsport. Joe, how much effect do you think the Mustang's local racing success has had on XR Falcon showroom sales, given the credible Mustang link that Bill Burke had worked so hard to create?
I believe he was working for survival. The new XR Falcon, short boot, long bonnet, didn't make sense to Australians. They wanted a long boot, big passenger area, and wasting all this space on the bonnet was just stupid.
Yeah.
And he managed to bypass all of that and make the XR Falcon an absolute winner because they didn't think about it anymore. It looked like a Mustang. That's all that mattered.
And the Mustang had been racing for like 2 years before the XR Falcon range went on sale, so that would have been a huge help, wouldn't it?
They were used to it.
Yeah.
The country was used to this styling now.
Yeah, brilliant bit of marketing. Bob Jane was next to blood his new Mustang when he claimed pole position for the 1965 Australian Touring Car Championship at Sandown Park. However, that car is remembered more for its fearful demise than anything else, as it was destroyed in a spectacular 200km/h crash at Catalina Park a few months later. Arch-rival Pete Gagan may have been the last of the three stars to debut his new Mustang, but the wait was worth it, as he showed Beechey, Jane and everyone else the sheer brutality of Mustang performance. Fact is, Beechey's Mustang never defeated Gagan's new Shelby V8 powered Mustang from the moment they first clashed at Calder Park in August 1965. In total, Gagan won 68 races from 74 starts in this car, an astonishing winning ratio of more than 90%, before moving to a new model in 1967. Now, if such raw statistics are the measure of greatness, then Gagan's 65 Mustang is arguably the greatest Australian touring car of all time. And its phenomenal success could not have come at a better time for Ford Australia and its new Mustang-bred XR Falcon.
We hope you're enjoying Shannons Club TV. Why not join the Shannons Club, where you can take part in our forums, get the latest exclusive offers and so much more. You'll find the full road and race histories of our feature cars, along with previous episodes of Shannons Club TV.
My name's Colin and this is my 1966 Ford Australia delivered Mustang. Back in 1965 and 66, Ford Australia were bringing out the XR Falcon. So in order to promote the Falcon, they brought out these Mustangs and converted them, and they were sold as new cars here. There's no exact number of how many they brought in. There's numbers from 160 to 200. I've had the car for about 26 years now. It'd been driven around, so paint was worn, everything was pretty well worn, but it was still drivable. Over time, you know, one thing would, you need to fix one thing and another thing would go, so bit by bit I thought I'd just pull it apart, and I just couldn't stop really, and after that it was just back to a bare shell. I just love the long bonnet on it. You just sit there, it's a 60s car, you get back in it and it's more like a time machine basically. That's the way I see it, it's like a time machine. You get in the car, you just put it in drive and you just cruise around. It's easy to work on, everything's accessible. All the parts, you know, you can buy parts for them now quite readily. Even like just with the way they were built in the factory, no car sort of came out the same. You know, one guy'd put a sticker somewhere and another guy'd put a bolt there, or there would be different bolts, and that's what I like about them. It's just, they're all different. Owning a Mustang, I believe, it's in your blood. The kids would love to get a look in on this car, but they won't be getting anywhere near it until I'm finished with it, basically.
Shannons National Auctions Manager Chris Borobin joins us now for Hammer Time. Chris, will there ever be too many early Mustangs on the Australian market?
How can there be? I think the demand's there for it. I mean, it's an iconic car, the original pony car. I mean, we're seeing more and more come into the country in recent years, but the demand's still there.
So who's buying them?
Look, it really varies. I mean, we've seen collectors, we've seen mum and dads buy them. There's an abundance of people out there who want a Mustang.
So it's crossing all generations now.
It is, and I think even the younger generation today still love the Mustang. It's a pretty car, and it's a car to have.
And they're available with a V8 engine and 6-cylinder engine options as well. What's the most popular? I imagine the V8 has a premium over the 6?
Absolutely. We are seeing the 289 cubic inch V8 a lot more popular than the 6-cylinder motor.
And that was the one they raced, of course, so it's got this halo around it, I guess.
Yeah, that's a performance option too.
Yeah. So we are seeing the preference for the V8, and it had a great note also.
Yeah. And I guess the big question, Chris, right-hand drive versus left-hand drive. Right-hand drive means a premium at selling time.
Yep.
Is it economic to get a left-hand drive car converted now? Are there good conversion centres now? Have the price of conversions come down with all the cars on the market?
There are some very good conversions being done today, and we're also seeing a lot of modern parts going into the conversion with the power steering, rack and pinion steering in them. So there are some very good outfits out there doing some great jobs. We're probably seeing though that the majority of them are staying in left-hand drive form, but there's still a demand out there for people who feel more comfortable to drive a right-hand drive car here in Australia.
So they will pay extra for it?
Yeah, that's right, yep.
Well, I guess in terms of being a practical classic, we talk about the enormous number of spare parts in the aftermarket for Mustang owners. It makes it pretty hassle-free, I guess.
It is. That's one of the attractive thing with the Mustang. I mean, you can pick up a catalogue and virtually build a Mustang out of a catalogue.
You could.
Yeah. So I think the ease of parts worldwide really has made it worthwhile having. Yeah.
And they still look sensational.
They do, don't they? Whether it's in coupe, fastback or convertible form, they look great. Yeah.
And there is a preference here for any particular body shape?
Look, we've seen some preference in fastbacks and convertibles, but we're finding also a lot of families getting the hardtops because there's a lot more room in the back for the kids as well. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, Chris. And keep in mind you can stay up to date with all the latest auction news on the Shannons Club website. Now, if you'd like a memorable image of the Ford Mustang in competition in its many different guises and the many years that it competed, check out the huge archive at autopics.com.au with more than 750,000 motorsport photographs to choose from.
And you can read the full road and race history of the Australian Ford Mustang and many other significant cars on the Shannons Club website.
Well, Joe, what's the legacy, I guess, of that first Australian delivered Ford Mustang?
Well, because our family cars were a size or two smaller than the American cars and bigger than the European cars, you could argue that the Mustang influenced every family car we drove during the 70s. And because it had such a big influence on the Japanese cars, all the sporty coupes, they had the same Mustang proportions as well. So I think it had a profound influence on cars that Australians drove for at least 10 years.
That is amazing when you think about it. You think about, Celica, all sorts of popular model
cars. Even the
cars.
180B and Mitsubishi Lancer and all the little coupes, they're all
short bird, long bonnet.
bonnet.
Yeah, the Mustang legacy, there you go.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed this trip down memory lane with the first Australian Ford Mustang, and we'll catch you next time on Shannons Club TV.